I used to work as a delivery driver in Ho Chi Minh City, taking late-night orders that often sent me through BNHT district. Anyone living here knows about BNHHNG Hoa Cemetery, the largest cemetery in the city, a place people avoid even during the day. But for me it was just another shortcut. Until one particular night. It was around 1:20 a.m. The streets were silent, unusually cold for Saigon. I rode past the cemetery wall, the rows of tombs barely visible through the fog creeping over the ground. That's when I heard it. A whisper, a man's voice. "Hey, stop." I instantly looked around. No one. I thought maybe someone needed help, so I slowed the bike. Then it came again, much closer. "Stop, come here." I braked and turned the bike toward the entrance gate. My heart felt heavier with each second. The air was unnaturally cold. Inside, the tombs looked like dark, crooked teeth rising from the earth. My phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. "Why did you leave me here?" I froze. I didn't text anyone. I didn't even know this number. Suddenly a figure stepped out from between two graves. A tall man, soaking wet, wearing a torn shirt and long pants. As if he had just climbed out of a river. He stared at me without blinking. I called out, "Are you okay?" He didn't answer. Instead, he lifted his hand and pointed behind me. When I turned around, I saw someone sitting on the back of my motorbike, even though I had left it empty just seconds before. The figure was hunched forward, hair covering its face, dripping water onto the seat. My entire body froze. I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred. Then the man standing among the graves whispered, "He wants a ride." I jumped off the bike and ran without thinking. Behind me, I heard the engine start, the bike accelerating on its own. The next morning, the police found my motorbike abandoned near the cemetery entrance. The seat was completely soaked, but it hadn't rained that night. I quit night deliveries after that. But sometimes, when I pass BNHHNG Hoa during the day, my phone still gets messages from that same number. Always the same words. "Why did you leave me?" Back when I lived in Tay Ninh, my house stood next to a small rural cemetery. It wasn't large, but everyone in the village had heard the same story. A woman in a white aodai appeared between the tombs after midnight, searching for her lost child. I never believed any of it. Until the night she came to my window. It was around midnight. I was lying on my bed when I heard a soft rhythmic tapping on the glass. Toke, toke, toke. I thought it was a branch, maybe the wind, but something told me to look. When I pulled the curtain aside, I felt my blood turn to ice. A woman in a long white aodai was standing directly outside my window, her face hidden by long black hair. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. I screamed. My parents ran in, but by the time they opened the back door, she was gone. The next morning I noticed wet footprints leading from the cemetery to our window. That night she returned. This time she knocked again, slower, heavier. I didn't dare look. I heard the sound of her walking around the house, dragging her feet across the dirt. Then her voice, a soft, trembling whisper. "Why didn't you open the door, my child?" I felt tears streaming from my eyes before I even realized I was crying. At 1:30 a.m., the knocking stopped. But a lullaby began drifting from the cemetery. A mother's lullaby, soft, sad, echoing through the trees. The next morning, my father found something half buried behind the house, a faded photograph of a woman in a white aodai holding a newborn baby. On the back, in shaky handwriting, "I'm still looking for him." We moved away a month later, but I still wake up at night sometimes thinking I hear tapping on my window. Always 3 knocks. Always the same rhythm. In 2020, I worked as a late-night food delivery driver in Outlet. If you've ever been there, you know the city has dozens of small hillside cemeteries scattered among the pine forests. Most people think they're beautiful. Not me. One rainy night, at about 2 a.m., I accepted an order on the far side of the city. GPS took me on a shortcut through a lonely hill where an old cemetery rested beneath the pine trees. Halfway up the hill, my motorbike engine suddenly died. No sputtering, no warning, it just stopped. The pine branches were shaking even though the wind was dead still. Then the fog rolled in, thick, fast, swallowing the graves one by one. And then I heard its soft whispering, dozens of voices overlapping. as if they were all speaking at once. Leave, get out, don't stay. My hands were shaking as I tried to restart the bike. Nothing. Then a loud thud hit the ground beside me. Something had dropped from above. I shined my phone flashlight. It was a clump of wet earth, freshly dug from a grave. I pointed the light toward the cemetery slope and saw him. A man standing on top of a tombstone. His clothes were soaked, his neck bent at an unnatural angle, like he'd been in a terrible accident. I whispered, "Sir, do you need help?" He didn't answer. He stepped off the tombstone, bones cracking with every movement. He walked toward me slow, dragging one leg. When he reached me, he leaned close and said in a broken whisper, "Don't let them see you." I didn't understand until I looked behind him. From the shadows of the graveyard, figures began rising, dozens of them, men, women, children, all standing between the graves, facing me, completely still. Then one of them started moving, then another. Soon all of them were gliding toward me, silently, without touching the ground. My bike suddenly roared back to life on its own. I didn't question it. I jumped on and sped downhill as fast as I could. I didn't stop until I reached the city lights. When I looked into my rearview mirror, I saw the figures standing at the top of the hill, watching me. Since that night, whenever I ride past any cemetery in Alet, I always hear the same whisper behind me. Don't look back.